Scheduling is difficult. It's very difficult.
Yes.
It's probably more difficult than insurance. Hi, my name's Steven.
Hi, I'm April.
This is the 3 Pi Squared ABA Business Leaders Podcast, where we discuss topics on how to create and grow an ethical and sustainable ABA practice.
Together, Steven and I owned a 7-figure ABA practice that provided both clinic and in-home services.
3 Pi Squared has helped over 900 ABA practices start up and expand with our comprehensive products and services geared specifically to ABA. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3 Pi Squared. I'm April.
I'm Steven.
And we're so thankful that you chose to spend some time with us today. We have really fun, exciting addition that I'm announcing today. So we're starting a hotline. It's will be the number will be posted in the show notes, and then we'll put those out during our reels for the week that this podcast drops. And, but yeah, so call us at the hotline and ask any questions that you have. And, if you want to be anonymous, you can let us know that. If you don't care, if you want to hear your voice, on the podcast, that's cool too. Yeah, so a lot of people preface their question with, I know this is a dumb question. Or, I know, like a silly question. I should know this, but it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what questions are all about. Like, we value curiosity here at 3 Pi Squared. In fact, one of our very first things that Steven rolled out was curiosity-based management, right? And so no question is a stupid question, and no question is, within reason is judged, right? Like, it's not, business related. I don't know. You start asking us like personal questions on these.
We might judge
we may not answer. We may not answer those, and we may judge you a little bit.
But yeah, like something I often say is, if you have the question, probably hundreds of other people have that exact same question. So you're not just helping yourself, you're helping others. So, I would encourage you to take a chance.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are members, ABA Business Leader members, like on our platform, business platform. We're changing so much right now. I can't keep up with some of the things.
ABA Business Leaders platform.
Previously the ABA Business Leaders membership, right? So we do 2 Ask Me Anything events per month, and that's closed events. We don't record them because we want like to have just a really super safe space for those of you who have questions and want to, even think aloud through some parts of it. But this is kind of, this hotline is kind of to give you a peek into what an AMA, like today's podcast is kind of, I'm taking some questions that we get asked often that we've been asked often over the past few years, at our AMAs and even some of our live events and just in our consulting in general, right? I just compiled a list of questions and also from social media. But, those of you who are members and attend our AMAs, it's a little different because we come on camera and we have a conversation. But it's kind of like that, right? To be able to just ask any question. And, we do get some of the same questions asked over and over again, and that's okay, right? Because we're all in different phases. And so often what happens too is someone's, purchases the membership, they listen to all the self-paced. They're going through the self-paced. And that's kind of what our AMA was designed for, was to supplement as you're going through the self-paced material, that you could have, you could have us a couple of times a month to ask any questions or to clarifications.
Or even which videos, I'm here, what video should I watch next, right? Like even something like that.
So that's kind of was the original, plan. But then also those of you who are members who may be listening now who know, like, you'll, especially if you purchase this prior to or in the very beginning stages of starting your company. And, and then you get several stages in, or you get several months in, and you're like, oh, I remember there was something about something, and it was an important thing that you said, and you were wearing a blue shirt when you said it, but I think it was in that maybe the second session, but I don't remember, right? And then it all kind of like starts to get a little muddy, right? And so then it also serves for like helping to answer those questions and focus you and help you to know what part to go back to. It's just a lot of information when you're learning. There's a lot of information out there as you're starting a company, and you also get to those points where you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing here, or I don't know why did I do this again, right? And then we also like to share wins. So if you, just like I said before in our, I believe in our news broadcast that we do on Mondays, if I want to also hear good news, right? So if you have any news to share with me, like, wins, small, I don't care how small you may feel that they are. If you have any wins, I would love to hear about them, and I'll share them on our news broadcast, but also here on the hotline. If you want to call into the hotline and tell us a story, share some good news, ask questions, whatever, right? That's what it's for. So I'm really excited about launching that. I was told when I first came up with this idea that we don't have, like, not enough people, like this isn't a thing that people do, that there aren't going to be enough people to actually call it. So help me prove them wrong. All right. So I'm just going to start with the questions. Mm-hmm. I have purposefully, I put in some top answer, like some top questions. I use ChatGPT, and full disclosure here, and I just put in like a lot of the top questions we get asked. All right. So first one, we just started billing insurance, and it feels like claims are always getting denied. Where should I start troubleshooting?
I mean, am I answering this question?
Both of us.
Okay. I mean,
when you get denials, it gives you a code, right? It tells you.
Right, but that my first question would be, what do you mean by denial, right? So are the right codes in your practice management software? Do you have your insurances set up correctly in your practice management software? Where is the error coming from? And then what is the error? And, it may be that code requires a modifier. It could be that you have a place of service that they don't allow. It could be that you're putting in too many units for that particular code on a certain day. Some insurance companies have that. Medically unlikely edits or something like that. I can't remember the name of it anymore. I am not an insurance biller, but I do play one on podcast. So those would be the things that would typically be issues when you first start. Do you have an authorization in place, right? I mean, I would assume that you have an authorization in place, but you may not. I mean, you just may not. So those would be the things that I would be looking at first. Other things could be the member ID could be wrong. Maybe you have the date of birth incorrect. If you didn't add a diagnosis or the right diagnosis, there's just a lot of things that could potentially go wrong. Most of what I've just said, it's always going to be wrong. It's not going to be like, that worked that one time, but it didn't work the next time, right? These are the things that if you have the wrong date of birth, or you have the wrong member ID, or you have the wrong code, or the wrong insurance company, or no authorization, it's just going to be flat out denials. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that does make sense. All right. We have several categories here, and I'm going to try to mix it up so that it's not all on you answering every single thing, but we'll see where we go. All right. Well, this one is going to be probably you. I'm new to insurance contracts. How do I even start the conversation about rates? I can tell you one thing. What sets you apart? What's different? What's different about you? Go through even things that you might feel are insignificant, and list out all the things that, state your values, like come up with things behind your values, like, that would be a start.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, so you're going to have a letter that's how these start off. So I'm going to back it up. So first thing, talk to margin keepers, or by the ABA Business Leaders platform. Both ways, you get access to a forecasting calculator. Just added it to our system, testing it out today.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah,
a new forecasting calculator? So, okay, let's pause. Tell me more about that.
So the way it works is that you put in your clients. You don't put names. Right. You're putting in. Okay, so you.
Sorry, I put you on the spot here.
It's quite large, but we go through it step by step. How many required how many billable hours do you require for your BCBAs and your RBTs? And then you put in your payer information. So we get paid this much for this code. We get paid this much for that code. And then you put in the clients that you have and what those client's funder is. Mm-hmm. So you put in all of this stuff. And then what it does is it spits out your wages. So this is your wage range for techs. This is your wage range for BCBAs, BCABAs, based on the numbers that you put in. If you're paying people $2 an hour, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work. Then you go into expenses, right? You go into, okay, here are my expenses. And then it will tell you your profitability. It will tell you when to hire people, if you're in aggressive growth. Like, it's really cool. And then the last thing we're going to be adding is if you want to add those wage ranges to your growth paths, it will just add them for you. So the whole thing is in there, but you can also reach out to margin keepers, because margin keepers helped me build this thing. And this is part of what they help with on the financial planning side of things. You need a plan. And so having that person say, okay, wages, your cost of living, you're going to have to increase wages. What can you actually do though? Right. And still be profitable, because you have to be profitable. You cannot be losing clients or you cannot be losing money on the clients you work with. The vocabulary should not be, well, this funder is supplementing this other funder so that I can see that should not be in your vocabulary. If it is, it's fine, but we got to talk about this, right? And so Margin Keepers, great company, awesome. Joanna and Sam are amazing. So they help with this. So that would be the first thing that we would need to do, is, can you accept the rates that you currently have? And what should you be accepting? So what is your minimum amount? We don't want emotion to come into this. It's going to get emotional. So the more like fact-based evidence that we have, the better off we are. So we want to know what the minimum is. So is it $15 per unit for 97153? Is it $25 per? I don't know what you're doing, right? I don't know how much vacation time you want to give, how much training you want to give, how much restricted free hours you're going to pay for. I don't know what, are you going to let everybody go to a gym? Are you going to have some kind of wellness? Like, these are all great things, but if you cannot financially afford them because of the rates that you're going to get, you cannot do those things. So that's really the first step, is seeing what your minimum rate you can accept is. And then we create the letter based on that, right? And then the letter typically starts off, and listen to our podcast on rate negotiation, because we've talked about this, but the letter starts off with, typically what I recommend, parent calls you up and says, why should I go with you versus the other person down the street? That's how your letter starts off. What sets you apart? What makes you different? what your values are, like you mentioned, right? This is how we want to start the letter. We're awesome and amazing. We speak 5 different languages. Our techs, half of them have master's degrees. Our BCBAs have a certain certification that nobody else in this area has. We can provide this very unique service that no one else can in this area. All of those things, right? And again, like April said, you want to list out everything, right? And maybe we cut it down. If you have 500 things, we probably want to cut it down, but we want
categorize a few things,
absolutely.
like kind of combine them together.
Absolutely, right.
But first, get that list together of all the things.
Yes, and then you can. What we're doing with one company here that is kind of fun is we're having a fact sheet and saying this is what we do, this is what other companies do, and so we're just pointing out like how this company is different. We're going to put together a really cool presentation. We can help you with this if you want. So I'm very excited about trying a different way. It's a little bit more unique, but that's what you need. And then you go into like all of the expenses and how things have increased and cost of living. Inflation's good now. Everything's fine, but it seems really expensive to get eggs. So I don't know if that's true, but so you go into what the cost of living is and, how much your wages have increased since the last raise you got, or probably, since I signed the contract and I haven't gotten a raise in 10 years. So that's the next step. And then you go into how awful their rates are and how good these other rates are. And that's really the basis of the letter. Some funders require a certain form be filled out. Some don't. They're all going to be different. And then the last thing I will highly recommend is that if you have a network rep, don't immediately send them the letter. So what I typically recommend is you email the network rep and say, hey, who do I go to if I've got extreme denials, like that first thing that we talked about? Who do I go to if I have issues about our contract? Who do I go to if I have questions about my practice handbook? Who do I go to if I have authorization issues? Who do I go to if I want to talk about rate negotiation? You kind of slide it in there so that this person will respond, hopefully, and then they'll say, okay, you go to Mark for this, you go to Sally for that, you go to John for this, and then once we find out who we send it to, then we send it, because what I have found is that this can drastically reduce the amount of time to get somebody to at least acknowledge that it's been said. Because if you just send it to your network rep and they're like, oh yeah, like 6 months later they get back to you and say, oh yeah, you should have sent that to John. I don't deal with that stuff. And so now we've wasted 6 months, right? So that's kind of the basics of rate negotiation. This is part of the membership as we go through this. So you've got a template and all that good stuff. And we do have a consulting package for rate negotiation if you need that help. Some people have provided very good feedback. We've gotten 20% increases in some cases. So what can you do with a 20% increase in your rates? Probably a lot. So I highly recommend rate negotiating is really important. And then the last thing I'll say on this is I get a lot of pushback from BCBAs saying, well, this is a new contract. I can't ask for rates. It's just me. I'm not big. What do I have to offer? If they are giving you a contract, if they're saying, hey, we want you in our network, you have leverage. It may not be much. I'm not going to lie that you can definitely, but it is something. And so if you get nothing else, but when I can actually rate negotiate, if that's the least that you get, then please get that. So when is that time that I can ask for an increase? Who do I ask when it does become that time for that increase? So you have all that information before you sign the contract, because that is the most leverage you're going to have. You're going to have no leverage after you sign the contract. So I would highly recommend that you do it before you sign the contract.
Yeah.
April and I are so honored to have Margin Keepers sponsor this podcast.
Running an ABA business comes with its share of challenges. managing clients, staff, insurance, the list goes on.
One thing you shouldn't add to your stress, bookkeeping. That's where Margin Keepers comes in.
They're specialists in ABA businesses, which means they understand exactly what we need.
With Margin Keepers handling your finances, you can focus on what really matters, your clients and your practice's growth.
They're more than just bookkeepers, they're lifesavers in the financial world of ABA.
So for peace of mind and expert financial management,
turn to Margin Keepers. It's a decision that will lift a weight off of your shoulders.
Check out Margin Keepers at www.marginkeepers.com and see how they can help your business thrive.
Absolutely. Thank you for that description and answer. All right, moving on to the next question.
Go.
How strict should I be with cancellation policies in the beginning? Very.
Yeah.
As strict as you possibly can. I think it's important to have a policy, have a procedure, clearly communicate it to the families that you work with, clearly communicate it to your staff, and follow it. I think you can't, if you're like super lenient, then like clear is kind, right? Like I've said many times, like Brene Brown quote, clear is kind, right? We have to be clear and we have to keep those boundaries. And if we let it slide from the beginning, then it's going to be an ongoing problem. Now, of course, you have those policies and procedures and like rules in place for a reason, and you get to like have discretion over whether, oh gosh, this family is truly, really having a super tough time right now, and I'm going to bend things for them to really support them. Of course, there's like one-off situations, but it's really easy for that one-off situation to be applied to every case, and because like we're here to help, right? And so it's whether it's we want to be supportive to our staff and be flexible as possible. We want to be supportive with these families who have, crazy busy lives and so much going on, and they're, maybe dealing with a lot of emotion and overwhelm. Like, yeah, but we have to be strict. So I think if, we can look at reevaluating and saying, okay, are we being too strict here? Like maybe we're being too rigid, because I think that could be a thing as well. Are we expecting too much? What's the more, what's a middle ground here? What can we expect and still, and not get, maybe we've prescribed 30 hours a week for this child, and it's just not appropriate for this family's culture, right? For this family, for the family unit, for whatever reason, right? So then, we can still say, okay, we recommend 30 hours, but however, due to X, Y, and Z, at this time, we feel like it's going to be just as meaningful and impactful and successful at X amount of hours, or, hey, let's sit down and look at the priorities of the goals that we're working on. And maybe we trim it down a little bit and we work on just a couple like high priority things first. And as we decrease hours, and then we take a look at it again, reevaluate every month, every 3 months, every 6 months, and see how we need to adjust. We had techs with us when you're looking at tech cancellation, right? We had techs with us that were always asking to be full time, but as soon as they went over a certain amount of hours a week, their cancellation rate went through the roof. Yeah. So, having those conversations, and so it's not policy, procedure, rules, guidelines are super important. Communicating about them, but then being able to take that information and revisit those guidelines and say, okay, is this practical? Is this really working out? Maybe it's not about being hardcore about these particular holding these boundaries for these particular procedures. Maybe we need to go back and look at the procedure and our policies and see, okay, how maybe we need to look at this differently. Maybe we need to change this. Maybe we, need to discuss what's going on, right? But I do, no matter what, I think that's part of clear communication is following up and being as consistent as possible, and even over communicating, if there's such a thing. Even if we are bending the rules for someone, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, in this situation, we're going to provide X, right? Due to this. However, let's work on a plan to figure out how to make this work better for both of us. But if we just put in rules and then we're not supporting people and helping them follow them, and then they don't mean anything, right?
Yeah. I think that one of the things, I think it was Jen Fitzpatrick said, her thing with canceled sessions was, these kids have a certain window, right, where you can get a lot of things done. They may have, once they get into school, there may be limited access, insurance mandates. I don't know that all states go up to 18. I'm not sure on that. So there may even be with the insurance that you only have a certain amount of time.
Well, even financial limitations from the family, because copays are still copays, right?
So just recognizing that this is serious, and it's not you can cancel 50% of your sessions. So it would be the why. Why did you write the treatment plan? Why did you suggest this many number of hours? Or why? Because it was medically necessary. So just going to that and educating your staff what medically necessary means, educating your client on what is medically necessary. And honestly, the thing that popped in my head as you were talking about, because we hear this all the time. And so, we need to make a course on this and have some supplemental information on okay, this is the conversation that you have, right? And then you can take it and do it in your own language, right? In your own words.
That's a good idea.
But have some, okay, if this is what you hear, this is what you say. And so that you have that, I don't know, is that BST training? Is that?
It could be part of it.
So something like that, I think it would be very helpful, because I think that many business owners, most of the BCBAs that I meet, they just want to help, right? And so confronting someone on, hey, you're missing a whole lot of sessions is not a skill that comes naturally, right? What comes naturally is whatever you need. So I don't, this may be a skill that we need to build. And then one thing, again, just from a KPI standpoint, if your cancellation is higher than 10%, you have problems, and they need to be addressed. So that would be 5% on the client side, 5% on the employee side, if you're noticing a rate higher than that. And what tends to happen, it doesn't always happen, you're just going to have those high cancellation kids, and you're going to have those high cancellation staff where I've had 15 flat tires in the last 6 months. That's just the way it is. So you're going to have to come up, and I think having that course where we can just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And what tends to happen is that your high performing staff see that you can get away with a 25% cancellation rate and still maintain employment. And that then even those high performers will say, well, you know what? I'm within the window. So it's fine. Nobody else gets fired for this. So why should I care? It will happen. I can promise you it will. So having the time and the energy to hold people accountable, even when you don't want to hold them accountable. And then another thing that I have heard, and I have heard it from my wife as well, well, I don't get to all of my sessions, so how can I judge somebody else who doesn't get to all of their sessions? You're allowed to cancel. You're the owner, right? And you may have very good reasons for having to postpone a supervision or something like that. Whereas this employee was hired to get to their sessions. That is their job, right?
Well, and I will say, not long after that conversation, I had the conversation of I have to pull back more clinically because I am missing too many sessions because I'm having to do these other things.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah, but there is a difference there. There is a slight difference between like a leadership BCBA versus a like.
Is there?
There is a difference. Yeah, there is. There's one of them has a fire hose and the other one doesn't have to.
Right, but ideally, like when you're leading, you like to hold yourself to the same standards as you hold other people, and I get that. But that is why I was not comfortable with that. I was not comfortable with like, oh, it's okay for me to miss, but it's not okay for you to miss. So I looked into why is it that I'm missing, and I adjusted my caseload and made it more like so that could, decrease.
And I agree, but maybe you're not in that position where you can decrease your hours yet, right? Maybe you just have to push through it and you know what, I'm going to do my best. But even acknowledging that to them, hey, that's all the more reason why I can't have you missing sessions because I have very limited window. And when you cancel 25% of your sessions, that shortens my window even more, which makes it even harder to get to the session to give you the training that you deserve and need and that the family deserves that you get, right? So that you can perform your duties to the highest of your abilities. So like I just because you have 15,000 hats does not mean that your RBTs can cancel 25% of their sessions. That's all I'm saying. That's it. So I just give yourself a break. You're giving them a 25% break. Now we need to decrease that to maybe 15%, right? Like that's all I'm saying.
Got it.
Yeah. No.
Got it. How do I build flex time into schedule for supervision and team meetings? Wow. So we get these questions all the time. And it is easier, I will say it's easier to have these conversations when we can have a back and forth. And we can ask them more about what they're doing and get more information.
And I would just not to interrupt you, but that would be my first suggestion to anyone listening to this is that is your job. Be a detective, get a little curious.
Asking the whys.
Yeah. So why can you like, I do both. So why, like you're underperformer and you're overperformer. Why can you get to 98% of your sessions? What are you doing differently? Can you come to the clinic or the office and hold a training on how you get there? How do you prepare beforehand, right? Like what are the things that you do differently than others? And it may just be, I'm young, I have no kids, I have no responsibilities, and I can get to my sessions on it. I don't know. It could be that, hey, I just have a decent car and it's not breaking down all the time. I don't know what those answers are. I can make some assumptions, but until you know what those answers are, you don't really know either. And then you would go to your low performing and not as a shameful act. How dare you? Just what is going on, right? Like as operations, because this, in my opinion, scheduling is operations. It's not clinical at all, period. End of story.
You get the feedback from the clinical team, but it is definitely 100% operations.
As soon as you say what is medically necessary, I take it. That I'm not going to tell you what is medically necessary. You're going to tell me, and then I'm going to take it. So as far as I'm concerned, this is an ops job, and as operations director, it was my job to remove as many barriers from my staff as humanly possible. So that's what I ask is, what is going on? How can we make this different? How can we make this easier? How can we make this less stressful? Is there something that we can do within your schedule? Maybe that means that you're not a full-time employee, and that's okay. But what are these things? And then the last thing I'll say, just before I forget, is predictive scheduling. Every state, not every state, but many states have predictive scheduling laws on how how late you can cancel a session and not pay your staff. So I highly recommend that you look into that within your state to make sure that you're paying your people what is required of you.
Absolutely. And we'll continue the conversation.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next question. We may have time for one more, maybe two, depending on how long-winded the two of us
But
are.
I just, scheduling is difficult and don't, it's very difficult. It's like,
yes,
it's probably more difficult than insurance. And to be honest, once you get insurance down, it's fairly easy, right? Once you know what codes to bill and how to
processes are easy.
Once you get you know where to do your pre-authorization. Once you know, okay, if I ask for this many hours, I'm going to have a peer review. Once you understand everything that goes into it, it mostly stays consistent. There's obviously some changes, but it mostly stays consistent. But this, like, I can remember helping with scheduling, and you can make this perfect schedule where everything fits together and you're like, oh, I'm done. And then you send it out and they're like, oh yeah, I just found out my kid's going to soccer at this time and I can't do that session. And then you find, well, actually, I didn't want that session because I had to drive here after work. So I'd really like something closer. So I don't think I'm going to take that client. And like, it's just like, what in the world just happened?
Right. So, and then we would have these conversations of, what do you mean you're not going to take that? This is your job.
Yes.
But then it's like, okay, well, if I force this person, then what's their cancellation rate going to be? And then, right, like the mental load, like we talk about mental load so much, like just in general these days in 2025, the mental load for scheduling is like real and heavy. So yeah, thank you for that validation because we're by no means saying that it's easy.
Right.
And you know,
kind of got to be a wizard.
The scheduling and it like so many of these parts are very much intertwined. They're very much connected. You have scheduling, you have the cancellation rate. Like those things are they're kind of all in one, really.
Totally, yeah.
They're very connected. All right. On to another very exciting topic. I'm kind of being sarcastic here, and I don't want to come across as that we don't want to talk about these things or that we're tired of talking about. Some of that we are tired of talking about, but at the same time, it's like, how can we all work together? There's like some level of like, okay, we're here again. How can we all work together? There's got to be something we can do. The more of us that are pulling together, that are changing how we're doing things as a whole, then some of these things we're going to elevate and some of these things we're going to figure out and we're going to be able to do it a little more ease, at least, right? Or dealing with humans. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be super easy, like as far as like, and there's always going to be work involved and there's always going to be challenges and problems that we have to work through. But another one of those challenges right now is hiring, right? So we get lots and lots of questions about hiring, all very valid questions, but it does leave us to be like, oh gosh, I wish I had a magic wand just to like cure cancellation rate and schedules and hiring and insurance. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do. I wish we had the magic though.
I mean, hiring goes back to canceled sessions, right? And the schedule.
It really does.
And yeah.
So, okay, we're ready to hire our first RBTs. All right. So this must be a startup.
Okay.
What interview questions or red flags should I look for? So values, know your values, base a lot of your questions on your values, not like our value is trust. Are you trustworthy? Or even like, can you tell me how you demonstrate your trustworthiness or something like embed it within, like look at the behavior that you want to see or that you don't want to see that shows this value, within what's important with your company culture and like get a conversation going. Have it a little casual. do a little small talk, right? I was going to say ask personal questions. I mean, I don't want anyone to take that too literally, because there are certain questions you shouldn't be asking in an interview. Ask for their opinion on things. Yeah, I don't think you can ask them. I feel like there's probably some really good office, episodes or reels or something like about like hiring. There's got to be. Michael Scott had to hire some people and really butchered it. But anyways, but we don't know. People can put on a good show for interviews. Also, people can they're nervous, right? And so maybe they come out of the interview and they're like, oh, what was I doing? There's some level of that we have to work with and lean into, though, because especially if you're in home services, right? If maybe a tech or a BCBA are really great with what they do with the kids, but every time they go to meet a new family or go into a new home situation, things are nerve-wracking. It doesn't mean that they're not right for the job, but it does help you it helps to show you how much support that they may need in the beginning, and how many skills, what to include as part of their training too, right? So, and that's realistic to look at, what is the needs? What are the needs of this person? And what do I have the capacity to give? Because it's okay to not hire someone that doesn't fit your needs, right? Just because they check all the boxes, but your gut's telling you something's off here. It just doesn't seem like a good fit. Or you're like, oh man, come back to me in a year, right? Practice some of these soft skills, work on some whatever, and get back to me. But definitely having, I think, embedding those values, but even more importantly, having conversation in interviews.
Yeah. What was the name of that guy?
There's a lot of guys. Was there a specific?
The guy that
that we talked about before.
Yeah. There's a real Gary V. Yeah.
Gary V. Yeah, I thought keep forgetting his name. So
Gary V. Says the sooner you realize that you're awful at hiring, the better off you are, essentially. So everybody sucks at hiring. What you need to do is if it doesn't go right, you need to quickly fire. And so there are a couple of things that you can do is embed your values, excellent. And I highly recommend trusting your gut. And then your onboarding process, you want this to be the time you get to vet these people. Are they showing up to work on time? Are they getting their tasks done on time? If they're not, are they reaching out? Yes.
You have to set a rigid, structured, scheduled, onboarding, not just, here's some paperwork, have it back to me in a couple of days. We like it to be we're being really,
But this sets the bar, right? They don't care.
So if you're able to weed people out before they meet your clients, that's the best
thing that you can do. So having a really robust onboarding process that kind of vets them and sees if they can handle it. You want to make this very difficult as a rigid schedule, right?
I'm thinking of reality shows, right? Where you want to really you almost want to throw in some
what is that show the show where they jump over the obstacles and they go up the ramp? What is that show?
You want to put some of those in there within legally appropriate, right?
So that's definitely something that you want to do. You want to make it somewhat difficult to get through the onboarding process, because again, like you said, where would you rather have them halfway through onboarding or 2 months into, them seeing clients? Which one's better for you? I know which one's better, because what's going to happen is if you have a bunch of people that are quitting after 2 months, they realize, oh, okay, this isn't for me. I don't like this company, blah, blah, whatever. this is going to take a reputation hit. Eventually parents are going to get frustrated. Eventually your BCBAs are going to say, like, I spend more time training new people than actually helping my clients. These things are not going to help you. So if you can make it a little difficult for people to get out of onboarding, I think that's best.
It's not a popular answer. Most people do not like it when we say that, because they will counter us with, "Oh, well, we really need people. And we want them to come on. We want them to stay until when." Like, and then to finances, money. Just like I say, like, you have to plan how you're going to train your staff. It's not just about getting them as fast as you can to get them to get billable, so that like, you do have to plan, how am I going to train my staff before they start accruing billables?
And that goes back
and that's part of it, is like, you have to pay for that. Once they're working, like, the onboarding process and stuff is like essentially all training, right? And so and even, like, another thing is data collection, right? Like, even setting up scenarios, whether they're watching videos, shows on TV, like whether they're watching Office, and part of the training is you're having them sit there for a duration of time and collect data on the regular, right? Because that's one of the other things that a lot of times people get into the field if they've never been in the field, and they're like, "Whoa, yeah, no, I just wanted to play with kids. Like, I just wanted to hang out. Like, I wasn't, this other piece is a lot." Because there is that like, you have a lot rolling. So you want to see if they're, you want to, what do you call it? Rigorous? Is that what you called it? Onboarding
it needs
process.
to be a little intense. I could never do this job. I will tell you, like, there is no way that I could be an RBT. Never, not in a million years. I would quit after the first couple of hours. I would probably start the RBT training, and I would say, "What am I doing here?" And I would run away. So I'm very aware that it takes a very unique person to do this, very passionate. But you have to, make sure that this person's ready. And the only way that you'll know that is if you have that robust, intense, onboarding process.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, that concludes today's, mock hotline podcast. So I would love to hear your questions. If you have some of the same questions, but maybe they're just a little different, or you want to ask in a different way, or you want to hear more about it, it's okay. You can ask the same questions, and it's okay. We might complain that, we're talking about this again, but we still like to help, and we still like to have conversations about these things, because it's very important, and it can really help. If we can work together, we can collaborate, we can help each other, then all this does is to help, increase quality of services for those learners that we got in here for the first place, like the reason why we're all here in the first place.
Yeah, I think, like, we were talking in an AMA this week about a situation that we talk about 100 million times, but it, like, when you get into that situation, then you're like, "Oh crap, I should have thought about that." So there are just going to be some things that, you know what, you got to learn the hard way. But hopefully you can take these podcasts and kind of adjust, and not fall into the big pit. But yeah, so.
All right, everyone. Thank you. You can find the hotline. Maybe we'll flash it up here on the screen, or we'll put it in the show notes. And thank you for choosing listening to us. I know everyone is super busy, so the fact that you decided to take some time to hang out with us and listen to our podcast is thank you. We appreciate that. And so if you would mind taking another couple of minutes and filling out, giving us a review on wherever you're listening to this podcast, rate us and review us. And I hope you have a great day.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Hopefully it was helpful. If you would like to gain access to this entire video, and actually our entire library of videos, please join our ABA Business Leaders membership. You can find that at www.3pisquare.com.